Have you ever wanted to punch someone so hard that they can't move for a few seconds? Well then, let me show you how it's done. Let's start with the animation. We need just one, so make something like this. And add an event where you think punch should connect. Save it and export it. Copy the ID, and I recommend you to put it in the animation folder inside of a replicated storage like this. Also, put a remote event here. Without wasting any time, let's get to the scripting. Go to the starter player scripts, and insert our local script. Get replicated storage, user input service, twin service, remote event, local player, assign another local, put a number you want your cooldown to be, and assign another local, and set it to false. Connect a function using input begun event, get input, GPA, which is a game processed event, if GPA, return. This will make sure function doesn't run when you're using chat or something like that. Check if input keycode equals to the keycode you want. Get character, humanoid, set CD to true, create a new instance linear velocity inside of a character's primary part. Set attachment 0 to character's primary part root attachment, force limit mode to force limit mode per axis. Set max axis forces to vector3.new, 12,000, 0, 12,000. Seems to be the perfect amount. Set relative to, actuator relative to, attachment 0. Set vector velocity to vector3.new, -10. And I used a tween to make velocity increase after a bit up to 30. Use game.debris to destroy velocity after some time. Play the animation you made and use getMarkerReached signal on your event to connect a function and just fire a server. Task.wait your cooldown and set CD to false. Insert a server script inside of a server script service. Get players, replicated storage, remote event, and require a module that we are going to do right after this. Connect a function using onServer event, get local player, and now this is far from the best way of making hitboxes, but this should do for now. By the way, next video is probably going to be about how to actually make good hitboxes. So consider subscribing if you don't want to miss it. Assign new overlap params, set filter type to exclude, set filter descendants instances to player character, and you can also add your map and effects folders. Use get part bounds in box with character primary part.cframe multiplied by cframe.new to offset it. Vector3.new as the hitbox size, and our params. Assign an empty table, and using pairs to loop through the parts inside of our hitbox. Check if part has a parent, so we don't accidentally get an already destroyed part. Check if part.parent has a humanoid inside of it, and check if hits part.parent isn't equal to true. Set it to true. Decrease humanoid health, create a new instance linear velocity inside of a part.parent.primary part, set attachment 0 to part.parent.primary part root attachment, set force limits enabled to false, and set vector velocity to player.character.primary part.cframe.lookVector multiplied by a number. The bigger the number, the bigger the velocity will be. Use game.debris to delete linear velocity instance after a fraction of a second. Now we're gonna need to make a ragdoll module. Insert a module inside of a replicated storage, get service physics service, and use it to register collision group called ragdoll. Use collision group set collidable to ragdoll, default false. This will make parts inside of our collision group not collide with parts inside of a default collision group, which is literally everything. Assign two empty tables and create a new function. Get a character, a bool value to check if it's still alive, and a ragdoll time. Get an attribute from character called dead, And if it's true, then just return the whole function. But if it isn't, check if character inside of a second table is equal to nil, and not it inside of a second table if it isn't. Make a check if character is inside of our first table, and if so, coroutine.close first table character. This will cancel coroutine if it's fired again before finishing. Check if dead is equal to false. Create a new instance wield. Set its name to temp, part 0 to character's primary part, part 1 to upper torso or character torso, so it works both on R15 and R6. Set its parent to character.primaryPart, and character.primaryPart can collide to true. Insert our weld inside of a second table like this. Use in pairs to loop through the descendants of the character. Check if it is a motor 6D, and if so, create a new instance ball socket constraint and two attachments. Name them like this. Set attachment 0 parent to v.part0, attachment 1 parent to v.part1, socket parent to v.parent, socket attachment 0 to attachment 0, socket attachment 1 to attachment 1, attachment 0.cframe to v.c0, attachment 1.cframe to v.c1. Set socket limits enabled and twist limits enabled to true, and play around with these numbers to get the desired result. Create a new instance part inside of a v.parent, name it collider_part, set its size to v.parent.size divided by 1.7 or something like this. Set massless to true, cframe to v.parent.cframe, and make it transparent. Create yet another instance, wield, set wield.part0 to part and part1 to v.parent. Set wield.parent to part and insert all of our instances to the second table like this. And just disable all of motor 6D constraints like this. If it is a base part and not named collider part or head, character humanoid, set state enabled, getting up to false. And change state to platform standing. Change collision group to ragdoll. Set character humanoid walk speed and jump height to 0. Set auto rotate to false. Break joints on death to false. And set attribute ragdoll to true. First table character equal to the coroutine create connect function. Set character humanoid platform stand to true. Task.wait. Time. Set platform stand to false. Check if character is dead again. And if it isn't, set state enabled getting up to true and change state to getting up. Use in pairs to loop through the descendants of a character once again. Enable all of the motor 6D constraints. Else if it is a base part and isn't named collider part or head, change the collision group back to default. Loop through the character inside of a second table and destroy every instance assigned to it. After that, remove it from the table. Set humanoid walk speed and jump height back to the normal amount. Turn on auto rotate and set attribute ragdoll to false. Resume first table character, else, so if character is dead, set attribute dead to true, change state to dead, copy all of this, v-destroy to delete all of the motor 6D constraints, else if it is a base part and isn't named collider part or head, set collision group to ragdoll, and copy this as well. Now go back to the server script, check if humanoid health is more than 0, if so, call the module with part.parent, false and 2, else call it with part.parent, true, and you don't really need ragdoll duration because it's infinite anyway. Now that we set up all of our attributes, we can check if attribute ragdoll set to true and make skills that can attack ragdolled enemies this way. Also, you should probably add this check to the local script so you can't use a skill while you're ragdolled. Alright, that would be everything. Hopefully I was able to teach you one thing or another. Comment what would you like to see next, and go watch my previous video where I teach you how to make projectiles. Leave me a like if you have some to spare, and goodbye.